What's going on, everybody? Welcome to The Wire. I'm Justo. We got Richie and Marvin in the house. Sahi joining us a little bit later to talk NFL. But first and foremost, we have got to talk NBA because everything has just gone crazy. I'm going to send it over to Mr. Richie Phillips to kind of lead us into this.
Yeah, sure. So we're going to have some talking points. We're going to do about 3 today on the NBA, guys. And it's so hard for me because I love the NBA and I love the NFL. But we all know the NFL's viewership. Just a quick side note. Of the top 100 most watched programs of 2020, 64 of them were the NFL. And all the other sports, not a single game in any other sport hit the top 100. So it is clearly American football for the United States. But back to the NBA. We're going to do a little two-parter. Justin's going to cover part of it. I'm going to cover the other part. I want to lead it off with Milwaukee and Miami. We had 2 games with what I've never seen anything like it. And it does happen, folks. I'm not saying it doesn't. But we had 2 games with a 50-point margin of victory. 50 points. 50 points, people. The Milwaukee Bucks beat the Heat. I don't remember the exact score, but I think it was like 148-98 or something like that. I know the Heat didn't even hit 100. I remember that. I think they had 98. I believe Milwaukee was 148. It was insane. Some quick highlights I'd like to mention about that game, and then we'll have the discussion. So, guys, the Milwaukee Bucks broke a record, 29 three-pointers in a single game. I believe the previous record was the Cleveland Cavaliers at 23. I could be wrong. We could stat check. I wish Tony were here. He loves to do that. But the point being is 29 is a new record by the Milwaukee Bucks. I know we were talking about it, guys. The East, we talked about, hey, some people were saying the Nets were the favorite. Sahi was kind of mentioning that. But everyone, Milwaukee's been the first seed the last 2 years, back-to-back reigning MVP Giannis. And speaking of, the only gentleman besides that did not play that didn't have a three-pointer on the Milwaukee Bucks. Everyone else on the team literally did it. So that's a team effort, folks. 29 three-pointers, 10 players had three-pointers on the team. It's crazy. The Milwaukee Bucks had more three-pointers in the first quarter than the Heat had the whole damn game. That's a crazy stat. So what I would like to open up with beyond that whooping that we saw is, man, Milwaukee's showing people, don't forget about us. We were the first seed. We always choke. But you know what? Now people can't question our ability to shoot threes. Giannis, we can still question, but not that team, guys. That was an insane game. Justin, can you please, let's talk about the other one. We'll just talk about this in general. 50-point margins.
It's absolutely nuts. 3 days ago for us, 5 days ago for you guys, Kawhi Leonard missed a game against the Mavericks. And, oh, my God. They were down 50 at the half, guys. The Clippers were, and they never got it back. They lost that game by 51 points. Let me pull up the final score.
Justin, side note, just so you know, the Clippers also did not make that game. It was not just Kawhi Leonard, FYI.
Nobody else showed up.
Paul George certainly didn't show up.
I've heard things, a final score, 124-73. Ridiculous. I've been hearing over and over again how the Clippers were one of the biggest threats to the Lakers, as well as we had the discussion here on The Wire about the Heat being a threat to the Lakers. I don't know what happens this week. I mean, can you attribute an entire loss to Kawhi Leonard being out? 51-point loss? I mean, is he that, guys, tell me, is he that valuable? Is he 51 points valuable? Is it a morale thing? Is it because we don't have Kawhi Leonard, we can't play basketball anymore? I mean, I don't understand what happened. This is a team that you've got professional sports analysts flooding our television saying they're gonna give the Lakers a run for their money, but they missed this star one week, and man, 124-73, I think says it all. And they were down 50 at the half. I mean, what happened in the locker room? Where was everybody's heads at when you came out? I mean, you have to come out of that locker room with a game plan. We're down 50 points at the half. I'm not losing like that. I'll lose an NBA game. You lose an NBA game. This is one game, but I'm not losing by 50 points, guys. I mean, maybe me. I'm really bad at basketball, but I would at least come out with the morale of we're not getting our asses kicked like this. Not like this.
All right. I want Marvin to talk, but I got to say something, boys. Steve Ballmer, owner of the Clippers, please pay me. I'll lose by 50 points. Pay me $200,000 a game, man. I have no problem.
Fair.
No, I can give you the same effort that they gave you. Marvin, please, why don't you talk about these two games for us? What is your take on all this? And then I have another little interesting side note about the Mavericks game I'll get into.
Oh man, well let me just get started with the Clippers and the Mavericks. It didn't matter that Kawhi Leonard didn't play. I mean, just the fact that, like you said, Justin, from a morale standpoint, like you got to think. I mean, why did you make the acquisitions that you made over the summer? They added a Serge Ibaka, they added Ty Lue. And you kept Pat Bev. And when I'm looking at the box score stats here, y'all, Pat Beverly had 2 points. 2 points.
Two points.
And Richie, Justin, Paul George is signed over the next 4 years to a $190 million contract. And this man had 15 points. Well, all it tells me, y'all, is that all they do is they play just for the Lakers. They set their entire roster, their whole mentality just to play the Lakers. They play down to teams, and I don't understand why they play down to teams, because they don't have the roster equipped, I believe, to win a championship. This game in itself just exposed the Clippers furthermore. Just that they're just still the Clippers. That tier, there always will be that second tier to the Lakers, and they're proving that by giving up these ginormous leads. Like they do this all the time, and this time they didn't even have a lead. I mean, when you look at the box score, I mean, why start Nicholas Batum if he's only going to take 4 shots? Why add him to the roster and into the starting lineup if he's going to take 4 shots? That just doesn't make any sense. So to me, the Clippers don't have it. It is no excuse that Kawhi Leonard didn't play. From a morale standpoint, they had no pride. At halftime, you wonder what Ty Lue said to him. This falls back on him. And if you're Steve Ballmer, like you said, Richie, you got to be looking at this game and you're like, man, I might have to look for another coach if this continues to go south, because at getting Kawhi back, I really don't think that does much. I mean, there's something wrong with this team. They do not have a point guard. They do not have a definitive leader. There is no leadership on this team. We said this a couple of weeks ago with the Nets. I mean, you honestly see more leadership standpoint from the coaching end that Kyrie Irving refuses to give Steve Nash credit for. You're actually seeing some effective leadership there. But when it comes to the Clippers here, with a 50-point loss after going out how you did last year, just no excuse for that. And getting to the Bucks game, I mean, Richie, I mean, my God. I mean, God. I mean, like I'm saying, all those threes at a high clip, Drew Holiday was the best acquisition the Bucks could have made. Keeping DiVincenzo was a great decision. Keeping him, Giannis has to work on his shot. You know, if they're going to have any shot at really going far in the Eastern Conference and beating the Nets, Giannis is going to have to make perimeter shots, because you just haven't seen it in the last couple of games. He's been struggling. But the great thing about it is that you've seen the role players actually step up and actually have done more than what they're supposed to. I mean, Chris Middleton, he's been on fire lately. I mean, he's got something to prove. Like, I mean, they talked about him bad in the postseason last year, so it looks like he's got a chip on his shoulder. But, I mean, the 50-point loss on the Heat's end, that's just inexcusable. I mean, without Jimmy Butler, you can't go out like that. You were just in the finals. Like, where is your pride? Like, Oh my God, like this just was not the weekend for NBA defenses across the board. I mean, like you just can't have Tyler Hero drop 23 points while the rest of the guys put up 4, 5, 6. Like it just can't happen. And if you're Pat Riley, I mean, this is what you feared. Not signing Giannis Antetokounmpo in the offseason. It was just, him signing that Supermax deal, that sweepstakes went out the window. So what you're seeing now is they were down to Jimmy Butler, but there was a bigger picture than that. They're down a major superstar, and they don't have that. They don't have a trio of complementary players that can really keep them in contention in the East, I think. So these two blowouts are it's early in the season, but it's you might have to hit the panic meter just a little bit on both these teams because they got exposed.
Marvin, I love that take, and I'll kick it back. I know Richie's got something too. I just love that take about that you said about the Clippers, the wool's off the eyes. I mean, you just showed the entire NBA that if we can get a lead on you by halftime, you're not coming back. I mean, you just show you show all we got to do is beat them to the gun, beat them to the gate, and they're gonna just beat themselves for the whole back half of the game.
Yeah, I would like to say a couple things. First, fun side note again. Dallas Mavericks game with the Clippers. The Mavericks scored more in the first half than the Clippers scored all game. So the Mavericks could have not played the second half and they still would have beat the Clippers. So that's hot take number one. Pretty funny. Marvin, you made a great point about the Clippers. I fully believe this. Here's the narrative and here's the reality of the situation. They beat the Lakers. That was their NBA finals in their brains. Then they go back and play the Nuggets and have their redemption arc and beat them as well. So then Kawhi gets injured in that game and decides can't play because he has stitches on his mouth. We can argue whether he needs to play or not, whatever. Whether it's one player out or not, if they lost the game competitively, we can have that conversation. Losing by 50 and only scoring 72 points, that's abysmal. And it's shameful. And to Marvin's point, that's on coaching. Yes, the players obviously should have more pride, but Marvin makes a great point. This is like Clipper mentality. It's still early in the season, and this is what Ty Lue's supposed to be coming in and trying to put a stop to. So we'll see if this is Clipper ball, as we've expected and grown accustomed to with this team or not. But all I'm seeing, to Marvin's point, is more of the same. I'm not going to count them out as potential competitors, but clearly, if this is they're going to be their mentality where they only want to show up for a game or a statement, then they're never going to make it. And they need to have more mental toughness and pride in their own team to not have a performance like that. Kudos to Dallas for playing that game. And as far as Milwaukee and Miami go, I'll give Miami a little more slack, guys, because what we just discussed. NBA record 29 3-pointers. 29 3-pointers. The Heat almost scored 100 points. I'm not saying that's great, but that's generally 100 to 115 is what you're talking about on a typical game. So for Milwaukee to almost score 150, that's like all-star game numbers. So yes, they got blown out. Yes, they're both 50-point games, but I think concerning-wise, I don't think they're comparable. Because Miami played what we would call a regular game, so to speak, offensively. But yes, it's still abysmal defensively to allow 148 points. So Miami, get your game together, because that's what we kept hearing is the young talent that plays defense. Well, you didn't play defense there. So I also have another thing. Marvin had mentioned how much playoff P made with this new contract. So again, Steve Ballmer, if you're listening, man, I can score a couple points, and if you'll give me the same contract as Paul George, each point, those 15 points, that's $12,666,666.66. If you'll pay me that per point, I promise you I will put more effort in. I may not score 15 points like Paul George did, but bro, I could use that money. I'm willing to try. I can't do a worse performance than what the Clippers gave you. So on that note, we're going to change the topic because I think that's enough.
Damn shame.
Damn shame, but I'll tell you what. Pay me. You don't have to pay me that. I'll tell you what, Ballmer, I changed my mind. I don't need $12,600,000. Pay me $12,000 per shot. I would still take that offer, man. Please give me a chance. Give me a chance. It can't be worse than what you saw. Next topic, boys. We have to talk about what I thought was super interesting. Justin has been really talking about this on our actual standard podcast, H2G, if you haven't been watching, COVID. And, we were talking about the bubble and how well the NBA had been doing in the bubble versus watching the NFL. Well, hold your horses. We didn't get very far. The very first game Houston was supposed to play against the Thunder did not go to plan. And Justin actually has the players, and he'll get into the more specifics of all the players. But the newly acquired John Wall and DeMarcus Cousins were among them. They could not field a roster of, I believe it was 8, is what Justin said. So they did not have enough players. They did not have 8 players because of COVID. Now, again, not all of them were COVID positive, but I believe it was that they were like close, as in like they were close contact. Therefore, the game was too unsafe. So we already had our first COVID failure, so to speak. This was inevitable. It's not a bubble, but bigger conversation. The NBA plays 72 games. They travel across the country 3 times a week. And as a matter of fact, they normally play 82 from October to May. And now they're starting December and they're trying to play 72 through the next year. So this is going to be a lot of potential COVID risks. I will say there is a vaccine, although the NBA has already announced they do not want to jump the line and they want first responders and they don't want preferential treatment. And Adam Silver's already said we will not take preferential treatment. So they are going to be dealing with COVID for the foreseeable future. So Justin, why don't you give us a little more stats about this?
Yeah, man. I mean, and we literally just covered it on the wire too, where we were talking, why take such a successful system, a zero positive case system, a working system, and abandon it. Why not? Here on the show, we had better ideas than just emulating the NFL. And I think what it came down to is what we've already said. This is my personal opinion, then we'll get into the stats, but they saw that the NFL had manageable damage compared to profit margin. It had to be that. They opened up 30 markets, and no, it's not going well. You mentioned John Wall, DeMarcus Cousins, and Kenyon Martin Jr. were among several players of the Rockets that were caught all getting haircuts in an establishment that was not in any way COVID compliant. And they were all within breaking social media. It's a new safety rule for the NBA. They've got new standards. They have new protocol. Everything was broken. There was contract tracing on the team. Yeah, as you said, between the contract tracing, the positive results that came from a few, and the fact that you had 3 star players blatantly avoiding the protocol and all going into the same haircut salon with people that aren't wearing masks, not wearing masks themselves. They put themselves in danger, and it cost them the game. And as you said, we're in the week 1 for them. It's predictable to me. I don't think that this is something that is going to take me by surprise. I don't think it's something that's going to slow down. I think it's going to continue because, as you said, the NFL's got a manageable disaster probably compared to profit margins. But look at that stat you gave us earlier. They're the only sport that's making the top 100 television. So they are getting some kind of money flow. I don't think that's going to be the case. I don't think you're going to be able to finish the season in the NBA because you are playing in 3 different locations. You're traveling all across the country weekly, 3 times a week. You've got 72 games regular season. I mean, there's no way to maintain this, and they're already off to a really rough start. I think that's all I can really say on it. I mean, I told you so, I guess. This is really all it is. Marvin, what do you think, man? It's taken its toll already.
It just goes to show their lack of disdain for the franchise. John Wall and DeMarcus Cousins. Even I'm going to throw James Harden in there. You've seen what James Harden was doing this past weekend. We all know he's been in the loop for all the wrong reasons. And I think it starts at the top. It starts with management. How much leeway are you giving these players? The players know the conditions right now and the circumstances. They just know what just happened last year with the bubble and everything, and how how successful that is. I don't understand why they don't want to be compliant now. So being in a barbershop, and that wasn't COVID compliant, it's just completely irresponsible. And you got to fault the organization. You got to fault, personally. Okay, so the players do have to take personal responsibility. I get that. But if you're not cracking down on these players and you have to draw the line. They got to draw the line somewhere, and they haven't done that. They haven't done that with James Harden. You saw he was in a strip club, not giving a damn, then having the mask on, partying, not giving a shit. With other people around him, hanger-ons with no mask on, and then you see him trying to cover it up, come up with all kinds of excuses instead of taking personal culpability. So I think it's just an overall. The overall outlook of the league, and all the other franchises have to take a look at this and see where they have to draw the line, because this won't be the first or the last, time we hear about this, because like you said, it's going to continue to get worse if they don't implement a system, because if you don't have big players, if you don't have players to, start the game, then you're going to see a lot of forfeits. And that's not, that's going to affect viewership. And that's something we've talked about on this show before. That's how the NFL's been killing it. They still got a massive COVID cases, but still you're able to see football. You're still able to see you're still able to see teams start a quarterback that was, start wide receivers at quarterback. You still see that, so I don't know what they're going to do, but they got to figure it out.
Yeah, I think this is, I agree with both of you. I think this is one of those situations where they're trying to emulate a successful model, to Justin's point, in theory, from a monetary perspective, but they're different sports. And to Marvin's point, you got 50 plus players in the NFL per team. A couple guys get sick, you can still play people. In the NBA, you don't have that luxury. You have 12. And if 5 decide to do something stupid, like Justin just mentioned, you don't have a game. So to me, the first thing I wish the league would have done is not postpone the game, but forfeit the game. You have 72 games. You do not have time and luxury. The NFL, it makes more sense because there's only 16 total. But in 72 games, and with what we're just discussing, very tight rosters, the margin for error is smaller. So you have to be, in my opinion, more direct about it. Now, again, this all comes down to money, which is why they don't want to do a forfeiture. But the bottom line to me is I think that's the approach the NBA should be taking, because I personally believe the NBA in general has done a much better job about COVID. Now, obviously, they're trying to translate back towards this NFL style and model, which I'm not happy about. None of us on H2G really are. But I understand it was so challenging for those players to do the bubble in the first place. So I understand they're trying to give the players the ability to be with their families, and I understand that, and that's fine. But I think that's where, forfeit them. Make forfeitures happen. Make these people take it seriously. That would be my biggest thing. And with James Harden, to Marv's point, obviously this guy's acting a fool, and he's doing it intentionally. I'm not going to say anything about the other Houston Rockets, but disdain is a good point to Marv's point.
Yeah.
With Harden, he's one of those case head figures that I'll never understand. He's doing the Vince Carter, but the reverse Vince Carter. Because when Vince Carter wanted traded from Toronto, he played like shit on purpose. Whereas James Harden's all right, I'm going to drop 47 points because I'm James Harden. And it's such a weird dynamic because it's he's tanking intentionally, making himself look volatile and terrible. So he'll tank his stock so he can get traded. But at the same time, he's still performing. James, you need to play worse. Stop scoring points. You got to do something. I don't know what you thinking, man. I know this isn't a James Harden conversation, but we were bringing him up, and now it's the first thing that popped into my head. Bro, you can't sit here and act a fool intentionally to try to get traded and then score 47 points because you're still, your value is too high. People are gonna be like, all right, he's still 47 points. I have to give up first round picks.
But it's just like what you said, Richie. If you see your team, if you see your leader, your assumed leader, which is James Harden, in the strip club doing whatever the hell he wants to do, what the hell you think the team is going to do? They're going to go to the barbershop. They're going to do whatever the hell they want to do. So, and like you said, he's just showing the that he's a volatile player. It's just from a leadership standpoint.
Sure. And we've talked about this before. All he focuses on is himself. He's demanded, get me Chris Paul, right? Get me Chris Paul. Get me Dwight Howard. I want Russell, my best friend Westbrook. 1 year, I can't take it. Get rid of him. Now I want traded. And all these times, this has been on record from Daryl Morey and etc. that Harden demanded that, or he demanded a trade if they couldn't get those players. So Houston is bent to his will. Now, I'm not a fan of Houston. I feel like they haven't done a great job as an organization. But James Harden to be this entitled is crazy to me. They've done everything they could that you've asked because you're the superstar. You're supposed to be the leader. And this is an example of James Harden. You show you don't care. You've always shown you don't care in the playoffs with you partying like a fool. And now, to Marvin's point, you're showing you don't care about COVID. You're not wearing a damn mask. And now your teammates are following suit. So it was a pitiful, disgusting thing to see overall. I was shocked to see it. I'm not going to sit here and just solely blame James Harden, but the point being is the Rockets, shame on you. That was terrible. But let's move on to our third topic. We're going to keep this open forum. We are in officially week 2, but basically, let's review what's been going on in the NBA. Let's talk about our highs and our lows. So we're going to actually switch it. I'm going to have Marv go first. Marv, what's been your surprise high and what's been your surprise low so far in this year?
My surprise high has been how impressive LaMelo Ball has been. You know, I really did not expect him to be this impressive right out the gate. He looks more impressive in his rookie campaign than Lonzo did, if you ask me. And, you know, I just did not, think that with all the baggage he came in with, before the season started from his dad, that's just his dad just being in the background, just had drama written all over it from the show that they had. I wondered how he would shape up against NBA competition, but he is balling out. He looks like an assist machine. He's really becoming fun to watch. So I've enjoyed watching Hornets basketball. Again, I never thought I would say that. Michael Jordan, actually, I can say is doing a good job right now. I don't think anyone can take that from him. This is just a testament to Mike. People doubt him. He's going to try to find a way to, prove everyone wrong. And that's what he's doing. He's put together a solid young core of guys that enjoy playing together. Got Miles Bridges, got Terry Rozier, got LaMelo Ball. I mean, that team is young. They are fun to watch. So that's been high. Low for me, Richie, Justin, I would have to say it's been... I'd have to say it's been Giannis Antetokounmpo. I just haven't seen it since he signed that extension. And signing that extension when he did that, I'm so proud of his NBA journey and where he's come. From start to finish. This is a guy that wasn't a perceived superstar, who really started with nothing, who really worked hard to get to this point. But I think it's him staying in Milwaukee and wanting him to raise his family there is a great sentiment. I think that's great. But on a basketball perspective, I don't think that equates to winning a championship. If you look at this roster, I think it's a great team. They put up a lot of threes the other night, Richie. That was great. But I just don't know if it'll be enough. And staying in Milwaukee, I'm not sure was the right decision. So, because you seen right out the gate, he's still struggling with perimeter shooting. That's going to have to get better for him. And how do you fix that during the season? That's something mechanically you have to work on over the summer. And Giannis, as we can see, he's getting better, and he's a locomotive. No one can stop him getting to the rim. But if defenses key in on him and make him a jump shooter, that's when you start to see some low lights from him. And that's a low for me. It's not seeing a jump shot from Giannis. I hate seeing these guys get extensions and all this money, y'all, and they just don't improve one facet of their game. Like Ben Simmons, this man can't shoot the damn basketball. I don't get it. I know that's a side note, but that's just part of Giannis. Like, this is something that the organization is betting on you. They're rolling the dice on you. This is Milwaukee here. This is not too many guys who want to, go live in Milwaukee or raise their families there. So it's a great sentiment, because you're not, this is why LeBron left Cleveland, because he knew Dwayne Wade and Chris Bosh. They weren't coming to Cleveland. He had to go to Miami. And so, it's just been a little bit of a beginning low for me, is just the low lights of Giannis Antetokounmpo not having an outside shot.
Yeah, totally fair, man. Justin, how about you? What would you say has been your surprise high and your surprise low so far with this NBA?
Well, before I get into mine, I do have to say, because we're missing Tony Ray this week, so he's not here to tell Marvin. But Marvin, you were one of those guys that was doubting Michael Jordan and his abilities as an opener. We're all good.
I know I was.
I remember you.
I still do. I still do. But that's Mike. We've seen The Last Dance. That's all he needs is probably a comment. It doesn't matter who it comes from, Justin. Probably from, I don't know if he watches The Wire. I don't know. He's just like, I took it personally when you said that.
Yeah,
and I was like, all right.
He took it personally. We'll see.
He did take it personally.
I agree with Marv. It's cool to see Charlotte playing, and even with Gordon Hayward not playing, quite frankly. They're doing great, but I'm still
they're not missing much.
Non-believer. That man has shown me nothing, personally.
Yeah.
All right. So my highs, we've talked about the Nets. I think that even though they're not off, they're 2-2 right now. They're playing good basketball. I mean, it's looking like a working team to me. It's not the shit show that we were expecting to see. I have to eat my own tongue a little bit, because our boy Kevin Durant is averaging 26.7 points per game. He is playing good basketball on a newly recovered Achilles injury. Kyrie Irving, he's 29.3 points per game, handing game balls over to coaches instead of the other way around. I mean, my God, the Nets, they're surprising me. They're looking like a team that is going to prove me wrong. I still am not okay with the no coach theory. To Richie's point earlier, it looks like there is some leadership going on there, but it's still just not being recognized. We got this rigmarole and, what is it? Aristotle mindset from Kyrie Irving. I don't know. It is still kind of fun to see that they are. It's working. All these assholes, and anybody that's in the administration that's tired of dealing with this is like, damn it. Damn it. But they are playing good basketball, aren't they? So it's a bite your tongue for everybody type of deal. My low, no surprise, is COVID related, but it was really, it comes from seeing the James Harden video. Okay, so for those of you who don't know what we were talking about, I mean, he posted a video on social media of checking out this suitcase in the VIP section of a club. People all around him, he's got no masks on. People around him don't have masks on. He's clearly violating protocol. He then comes back to the NBA investigators and says, I was completely COVID compliant. I was not aware that I broke any protocols. I came in through the rear entrance. We were escorted by my team and my team only. Everybody had masks on and all this stuff. It wasn't a strip club, he said. And it's just it's all BS. And to me, I can't say that COVID taking its toll on the NBA is a surprise or my low, because I expected that. What I didn't expect is these players that saw that there was a system to keep them and the people around them and their families and their coaches and their staff safe, involved very little contact. And instead of respecting that and taking the knowledge they had from that and trying to apply it to this new system that is highly dangerous, they're just flat out, it's like you let the kids out of school early. I mean, they're going to the barbershops, they're partying at the clubs. The players disrespect for the seriousness of COVID-19 and how it can affect people. I get it. If you're an athlete in your 20s to 40s and you're at the top, best shape of your life and you're playing basketball every day, COVID might not kill you. I get that. But it probably will kill somebody on the staff, somebody in your family, somebody in a fan's family. And now that they're letting fans in, I mean, you've got lives at stake, and you've got your career at stake. You've got your teams. You got the NBA schedules play out for the rest of the season at stake because they're trying to postpone games in a 72-game season around you idiots. I mean, really just being idiots. We talked about when the bubble was first starting. There was a player who I forget who he was, tried to sneak somebody into the hotel. You know what I mean? He tried to sneak this girl in the middle of the night to the hotel. We were like, oh my God, how dare he? Now look, they take the gates off and everybody's just running. Just like you said, I mean, you got the role models, the team leaders that are out here doing it and setting the standard. But you can't really blame it all on that. You're still grown-ass men and you're making irresponsible decisions, not just for the fact of you're screwing your team and their opportunity to win clearly, or morale or whatever, or even play for that matter, but you're making serious safety risks. And I don't understand how that's acceptable. And I've said it about all sports this season. Why are we even playing? If we're going to try to play, it needs to be something like the bubble. If we're going to try to have sports, it needs to be something where it is controlled. I'm sorry, but COVID's a real thing. And so if you have immune deficiencies or contact with immune deficiencies, you're working from home right now. If you are in a place that's highly exposed, you're working from home right now. Everything is inside. Everything's contained. Everybody in every job is contained. They shouldn't be any exception, because you're just going to keep having situations like this where innocent people are put at risk over stupidity. Bye.
Tell us how you really feel. No, I'm just kidding. Well then, wasn't ready for that, but you are correct, sir. And you 1,000%. It's been a year. What I would like to do, I'm kind of cheating, but I'm not going to elaborate too much crazy. My surprise has to be just the young players, kind of to Marvin's point with LaMelo, but also there's a gentleman, and I'm not a huge fan of the Warriors. I'll make that no secret. They're my least favorite team because of their owner. But James Wiseman, the second pick of the NBA draft, he's shown some promise, and he was, a lot of people questioned that pick as the second pick, and it was more so, oh well, the Warriors just don't have any big guys, they got to take a big guy, and that they definitely felt there was better value picks, and they were just picking for the position. And honestly, I don't agree, man. In his only real game, and he played against Milwaukee, he had 18 points on 25 minutes. I mean, the kid, he's a stud. He went 3 for 4 from the 3-point line. He's 19 years old. He's 7 foot. Draymond Green's coaching him on how to play defense. He had 3 blocks last game. I mean, he's got potential. So, considering all that negativity that like a lot of people and analysts were talking about him going second, good luck to him, man. I love seeing LaMelo. Honestly, to Marvin's point, LaMelo was playing great. And also, side note, 2 young guys, they weren't drafted this year, but Colin Sexton and Darius Garland of the Cleveland Cavaliers, who are 3-1 right now, affectionately known as Sexland. The Cavaliers duo are 20 and 21 years old, and Sexland is averaging 47 points a game between the two of them. So for some young studs, man, that's great to see, particularly in a team like Cleveland where, obviously it's a small market, and they picked up Colin Sexton in the first year. Basically, oh, he's too dumb to play basketball. That's genuinely what people were saying when they were watching him play. And I always hated hearing stuff like that, because he's not a prototypical point guard like a Chris Paul. And I'm not saying he's a Steph Curry, but he's a scoring guard at point. So he's undersized, and that puts him at a disadvantage. But I've watching him and seeing him elevate his game. Yeah, he's playing great right now. He's averaging almost 27 points a game at the age of 21 after all the adversity of, all these people saying all these negative things about him. Kudos to these young guys. They've been doing a great job. I really love seeing the youth of the NBA. I will get to the NFL. There's some kudos I want to shout out to them, but these young guys have done fantastic. As far as negatives, I really want to just go with actually the Lakers. They're my most biggest disappointment. Their bench, which we were praising on, like addition by subtraction. By taking Montrezl Harrell and pulling him from the Clippers, we saw the potential. And then picking up, oh my gosh, I'm losing my train of thought. Goofball, British guy, dyed his hair. I'll come up with Dennis Schrader, Jesus. Picking up Schrader, I really thought that their bench would be better. And honestly, they're still the favorites. They still have LeBron James. They still have Anthony Davis. Don't get me wrong, but the East is looking strong. Every team in the West is looking crazy. So you guys cannot put up these performances. And Montrezl Harrell is undersized. We've all known that, but offensively, he's looked great. And he's giving them a spark that I haven't seen in a while. He's calling for the ball. He's playing post up, and that's what they need, because honestly, Anthony Davis is such a perimeter and excellent marksman that he doesn't play the big man that he could play, and I'm not saying he needs to. I mean, he's just a great, incredible talent. Who am I to say a top 5 player how he should or shouldn't play? But Marc Gasol's too old to really post, so having Harrell posting, I like that. But the bottom line is his defense is a liability. I've seen it over these 4 games, and man, they got to do something. He's not going to be able to play late in the fourth quarter when the game's close, based on the performances I'm seeing right now. So to me, I wasn't ready for that. I wanted to see Trez, really come out the gate hot, and I want to see the Lakers come out the gate hot. And their bench is looking scrubbish, honestly. So they need to step it up. That was my biggest disappointment. And just one more thing I want to say before we move into the NFL. Not really a topic of point, but we talked about bad leadership with Harden. I want to give a shout out to Russell Westbrook. Now, this boy is also needs to look at himself in the mirror, but he captioned this post: "The Wizards are the worst team in the league." I'm calling it right now. They're going to be the worst team in the league. They are 0-4. And on his Instagram, he tagged every single one of his teammates. And this is a Dr. King quote, and it's the ultimate measure of a man is not where he stands in moments of comfort and convenience, but where he stands at times of challenge and controversy. He's calling his teammates out, but I'd also like to call you out, my friend. You took 20 shots just to get 20 points. And Bradley Beal's looking over here like, bruh. Bradley Beal is averaging 32 points a game. He's scoring honestly, he's damn near scoring 40 points a game. It's just he's getting pulled. And what can you do when Russ is turning the ball over 8 times a game? Like, Russ, I appreciate it, and you are a true leader. Maybe every performance isn't always so hot, and it's hot and cold, but I love the dog in Russ. He's always a leader, and I still appreciate it. But come on, man, look at yourself in the mirror. Bradley's trying his hardest, man. You got to step it up, too. You guys should not be 0-4. You are a triple-double walking, and you have great leadership. But you know what? Part of leadership is understanding when you're not having a great game and not forcing shit. You got an all-star in Bradley Beal. Last year, he averaged 30 points a game. He's definitely going to average over 30 again. So come on, man. Practice what you preach. So nonetheless, still want to give him a shout out. I feel like he's one of the few true leaders in the NBA. Obviously LeBron James, but the point being is, good job, Russell Westbrook. I like to see it on a losing team and a losing mentality. We'll also have a conversation about that with the NFL, because another great player did something similar. So stay tuned, guys. We are going to be on the NFL, and you are listening to The Wire.
Hey, shout out to the H2G podcast. Thank y'all for having me, man. Appreciate y'all. I'm not gonna waste no time. Let's make the mess a little better than lies. Girl, I'm gonna blow your mind. When I pick you up, take you on this ride. Yeah. Give me your energy. Come share the vibe with me. Let's be the melodies of your fantasies. Give me your energy. Come share the vibe with me. Let's be the melodies of your fantasies. I'm reading mine. Girl, the feelings written in your eyes. Yeah, I'm going in like a 9 to 5. Girl, you got me working overtime. Yeah, give me your energy.
All right, welcome back to The Wire. We are going to talk NFL. As you can see, we're a little lightheaded, missing Sahi and Tony Ray this week. And don't worry, they're going to come back with us in the new year. I will mention real quick before we talk NFL, we'll say it again before we end, I'm sure, but we are moving to 8 o'clock, people, 8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time with the new year. We're going to be on Wednesday night still. We'll follow the H2G podcast at 7. That usually will be done somewhere between 7:30, 7:45. Still have time to grab your dinner. Come check us out on our new time slot. It'll be Wednesdays at 8 Eastern. Okay, so what we're going to do NFL differently this week, since we're missing some hands, we're just going to kind of sweep it like we do the NBA. But I don't think we can talk NFL at all without mentioning Dwayne Haskins Jr. Has been released. I've got a little right up here on him. He was a first round, 15th overall in the 2019 draft. He's been released now after problems both on and off the field. 2 COVID violations, not to mention the fact that they've got a head coach battling cancer, and things like taking selfies with fans at the games, during the game, while the game's not over, when you haven't won yet. Guys, my question for you about Dwayne Haskins Jr. being let go, was this a combination of a lack of performance and the shenanigans that were on and off the field? Or is this simply the Washington staff is simply tired of making excuses for the young man after the investment they made into him? In 2 seasons, they've dumped $13,266,311 into Dwayne Haskins Jr. Maybe this is the same theory that all companies are under with the probationary period. If you think about it with other jobs, you know, you've got 90 days to prove yourself. Is that what's going on? Give him time to acclimate to the program, and then the idea is he starts to pick it up and carry his share of the team. But in this situation, he's not carrying his share of the team on the field, and off the field, he's made himself a liability. I'm not gonna put any weight on the Washington football team for letting the man go, because I'm sorry, when you're this much of a liability and there was this much money invested and you're a first round 15th overall pick, we expect more, period. We expect more professionalism. We expect more results on the field. And you know, if you can't help but think with situations like this, that all this time you're spending in social media and all this time you're spending making these grand gestures. We talk about it with Juju dancing on the 50-yard line before the games and then turning around and getting their butts spanked like they weren't 11-0 this season. It's ridiculous to me because you're not carrying your weight. I think football has changed, in my opinion, and then I'll let you guys answer my questions there. But I think it's changed because you used to have players that fought and scrapped their whole lives from the worst neighborhoods on all over the country. And I saw an interesting take on this earlier today. You know, a lot of these are young African American kids that would have never had a chance. And then they get to this place and they're making themselves and everybody else look bad, and they're making the journey that much harder because they're doing things like squandering it. They care more about what they look like working out in the gym on Snapchat than they do on the field. They care more about seeing bitches and doing this and doing that than they do keeping everybody around them safe. For God's sakes, you've got a head coach who is battling cancer. He cannot catch COVID right now. And you've got 2 COVID violations on the season for this guy. I'll turn it loose. I think in my opinion, just like they did, I'll turn it loose. I would have turned him loose maybe even sooner. I'm not really surprised at the cut. He was a good player, but I don't see his worth. I don't see the 13 million, almost 14 million that he's made so far. And I think this is going to be a tough lesson to learn. I mean, you just lost that shot that so many people fight their entire lives to get. You just lost it due to negligence, in my opinion. You can't blame this on coaches. You can't really blame this on anybody but the individual. And it's super unfortunate. Richie, what are your thoughts on Dwayne and being let go and his actions on and off the field?
So I don't want to get too deep into it. I feel like you kind of hit a lot of these points. But what I will say is a couple things, just my personal opinion on the man himself and then his actions. So just from a professional standpoint, I was never sold on Dwayne Haskins. I was shocked that everyone was so keen on him, and a lot of people and a lot of critics, like I was talking about with the NBA, were so shocked that Dwayne went third as quarterback, third pick quarterback. Kyler Murray was picked before him, and then Daniel Jones. So some people question Kyler because he was short and they didn't, and his baseball potential. And then with Daniel Jones, everyone was like, who? Right? So everyone was like, why wouldn't the Giants take Dwayne Haskins? Well, reportedly, from the get-go, he had always had problems in terms of like his mental capacity and his maturity and etc. He had an amazing year at Ohio State in 2018 where he threw for 4,800 yards and he had 50 touchdowns. So yeah, he had one good year, but I'm not trying to be a dickhead, and this is kind of my point. As I've already discussed before with Ohio State, they don't always play the best competition. So one good year and they don't always play the best competition, and you interview the young man and he slides. He slid for a reason, and this just shows it. It shows his character. It shows who he is. This obviously I'm not referring to Ohio State. It just shows who he is. He clearly doesn't take this seriously, and it reminds me of Johnny Manziel. Another example, 2 years in, gets drafted early, boom, he's out of the league. Now, I believe from what I've already heard rumors that he has there are some teams who will give him a potential opportunity as a backup and work his way up. Carolina being one of them, just as a side note. But I don't know how you see Johnny Manziel, you see what happened, man. Why would you? I just don't understand it. You work your whole life to have an opportunity like this, and you slid, and you even said, like, I forgot what he had said. It was something like, the league's gonna regret it, as that he slid to 15th, right? And it's like, oh yeah, the league regretted. Let me tell you what, man. Last thing I'll point out is this just shows you the young man needs help on a personal level and a professional level. He parted ways with agent David Mugleta, and that's the guy who represents Deshaun Watson, Budda Baker, Jalen Ramsey. He's a fantastic like agent, and you show yourself like performing poorly in public eye. You have a fantastic agent, and you decide to part ways with him. He was willing to keep you on and try to, sell you, and you're gonna leave him? Like, I don't know what the young man's doing. It's unfortunate. He's made massive mistakes, but I've said this before, and I said it about the shoe incident. He's a young man, and I hope he, can learn and have an opportunity. I hope this isn't necessarily the end for him, but based on his actions, based on what he's done, and honestly, like his head coach putting Ron Rivera in that danger, this might be it for him. Who knows? But if it is, he put it on himself, and he has no one to blame but himself. But he's 23 years old, and I would hate to see what I just said. Somebody work so hard, not ever have another opportunity. But this might be it, and it's really unfortunate. As a black person in the country and working so hard to get where he's got, that he might lose this shot due to his immaturity. But it might happen. Who knows if we're having this conversation if he's Daniel Jones of the New York Giants or, Carson Wentz. Let's put it that way.
Marvin.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, go.
I just couldn't wait to talk about this. It's pissed me off, to be honest with you, because you're talking about, a guy that came from an institution like Ohio State, Richie, like you said, him not playing at a college where he doesn't have to play that much competition. But I see it from a different standpoint. I see it as him coming from a great institution where they had to cover up his immaturity. He was not ready to go to the NFL. He wasn't ready to be a franchise quarterback. He simply was not ready. I mean, this guy is 23 years old, and I really think that he deserves another shot, because I think that if he can get on a team, not as a starter, but as a backup underneath a veteran quarterback, and someone can take him underneath his wing, because that's what he needs. As we clearly can see, where he's playing right now isn't the best influence on his life and his career. He's got a lot of hanger-ons around him, and like you said, Justin, to your testament earlier, social media seems to take precedence over his performance, and for him to flush this money down the drain just pisses me off. It just reminds me of Jamarcus Russell, and to what you both said earlier about black quarterbacks in this league. It's a shame, and I think that I just think that other quarterbacks and other black athletes around the league have to look at this, especially collegiate athletes, and really think about which route you want to go, because Dwayne Haskins has proven that he is not ready for this. And he has to really look in the mirror and ask himself, does he want an NFL career? Because he might have lost that chance to do that. Putting Ron Rivera at risk like that, going to the strip club. Dude, you're 23 years old. You act like you've won a couple rings already. You haven't done anything in this league. I watched him play this past Sunday, and I got to tell you, after seeing his performance, it's no wonder why he got benched for Tyler Heineke. There was no wonder why he got benched at the beginning of the season. He doesn't take care of his training. He's out of shape, overweight. He can't run, can't get out of the pocket. So they've invested pretty much everything into this guy, what they thought he was going to be, and it has not panned out. It's really been a damn shame. But I think Dwayne Haskins, like you said, Richie, he's young. He's not on drugs or anything. He didn't hurt anyone. He's not breaking the law. That's why I think that he does deserve another shot. But he is a knucklehead right now. It is what it is, and he deserved to be released. Anytime that you are doing that in the club and not preparing for games, you deserve to be released. Like you said, Justin, taking selfies with fans while the game's going on. Like, does this man understand how many kids around this country want that position, are fighting for that chance? How many black quarterbacks that don't get overlooked? And I looked up and I did my homework, y'all. I did some research on him, and I'm sorry that this is long-winded, but I YouTubed him and I saw a couple videos that he had posted, a couple watch parties. And to me, I was like, you don't take this seriously at all. And I don't play football, but just even from having a professional mindset, y'all, any of us, and any approach we have in life towards any career or any endeavor, it was really disrespectful, his approach. And I don't know who's around this kid, but somebody needs to shape him up.
I agree with almost everything you both said, but something that I'm just going to have to disagree on. I don't think you get a second chance in this. In my opinion, you've blown it. You've gotten paid damn near $14 million for a dream career that you squandered. If you do this in the other industries where it is so difficult to ever get your first foot in the door and you act a fool like this, you're done. Marvin, you and I are both in an industry very similar. There is a line that is billions of people long that want to become actors. If we were to get into an audition room with a Steven Spielberg or a Tim Burton or Joss Whedon or any of these guys, and we blow it, guess what? We're not getting that another chance unless we go all the way back to the beginning and work our way up. And I don't think that somebody that's been given this much opportunity and had resources at his display. I mean, as you said, he fired an agent that could have got him back on track. He's done it to himself. He dug his own grave. I think the better lesson is learned if this is the end of it for him. And he now has to live with that and hopefully set an example for people and maybe kids and things like that for himself down the line. And not to say that people shouldn't deserve second chances in life, but when you have so many people that are more talented and more consistent and have better numbers that are coming out every single year that want this position, I don't think someone like this who like Marvin said, wasn't ready, who doesn't appear to be worth it and doesn't take it serious. Most importantly, doesn't take it serious. The first two you can work on. If it was all gravy in college and it's a lot harder in the NFL and it takes some adjustment years, we see that every single year. But when it comes to the attitude, the mindset, the lack of respect for the game and the team and the coach and the seriousness of COVID, I know I talk about it a lot, but to me, if I had it my way, never play again, just to prove the point that this is the golden road. This is your entire life. This is millions of dollars every year to play a child's game. All you have to do is treat it like a business. And he didn't do that. He didn't surround himself with the right people. He's an adult. I know he's a young adult, but he's an adult and he made adult decisions that have led him to here. I think the consequences are justified.
I don't want to go too far into this rant back and forth, but I have to disagree real quick, man. I understand what you're saying, but I just disagree. Quick example. Let me just give you one. They're not apples to apples. They are different. They're apples to oranges. But Ben Roethlisberger, we can all agree, is a great quarterback. Great quarterback. Not a huge fan of him as a person, but a great quarterback. And he was not nearly as young as this young man was when he allegedly raped someone. And that was in 2009. He was, I believe, 27 or 28 years old at that point, already a Super Bowl winner, and had a second alleged rape. Now, what is the narrative for this gentleman? Does anyone really talk about that? No. And I'm not saying we need to. But whether or not that happened or not, he put himself in positions he shouldn't have been doing. Bottom line. Now, it's also an interesting point when we look at these types of athletes. I agree with you in the sense of, yes, the goal is being professional and the goal is understanding your opportunity like you can. But a lot of, everyone has different upbringings. And I don't want to bring into race, but quick examples, like a guy like Aaron Rodgers, who lived in California his whole life and was clearly well off, had a scholarship, easy life, man. Like, I don't know Dwayne Haskins. I'm not implying he had a poor life. But what I am saying is when different products of environments lead to different things and tools that they're going to rely on. So for all we know, Dwayne felt that, like, I finally made it in the NFL, and he was too focused on that high as instead of having that focus of like a Tom Brady, who, again, great upbringing, had the opportunity to be like, this is my shot at my career. And that coming up, so to speak, could have been for Dwayne. I'm not saying that is the case, but that's why I think it's so hard to get into the dynamics of is a person ready or not. Like, at point, Jamarcus Russell wasn't ready, and that boy got way too many chances. He got 6 years in the league, fleeced everybody, got like $100+ million. It was the last rookie contract at large. The NFL changed it because of him. But, he had opportunities, and most players get opportunities. And I agree with you with this pandemic, it amplified his stupidity, Dwayne Haskins. But, had this not happened, that wouldn't be the case. And I agree with you, and I understand you're just very firm on COVID, and I appreciate that. But I just, again, he's 23 years old. People make mistakes. I think everyone deserves a second chance. I do believe he'll get one, quite frankly. Whether or not he deserves one is up for debate. So, Marvin, you got us a topic. Why don't you talk about Kamara and records?
Ooh, Mr. Alvin Kamara. Well, first of all, Richie, Justin, I got to say that Alvin Kamara, I just want to thank him on this show as a fantasy manager. I won my first fantasy football world championship because of Mr. Alvin Kamara. And I got it, and I had to, I'm sorry, I clapped for myself. I'm just on cloud nine. I've just been riding a high. But Alvin Kamara, 155 yards, 6 touchdowns. Yeah, let me say that again for y'all that didn't hear me at home. 6 touchdowns. Tied Ernie Evers' record since 1929. Tied for the record that hasn't been broken since 1929. Could have had 7, but what a performance. He averaged 7 yards a carry. Mike Zimmer at the end of the game said that this is the worst defense he's ever had. I mean, I don't blame him. I mean, when you just give up that many touchdowns to one guy in particular, that just breaks the will of your defense. I don't know at what point of the game, y'all, that the defense will was broken. Probably after the 4th touchdown. All I know, y'all, is that they fined Alvin Kamara for wearing his Christmas cleats, which, I mean, it didn't matter to him. I mean, if you get 6 touchdowns in one game, it didn't matter. But I hate to throw salt on it just for a moment. I felt like he could have had 7, Richie, Justin. I just felt like he got robbed by that vulture, Taysom Hill. I just didn't understand that coaching decision by Sean Payton. If you see a man is tied for the most touchdowns in NFL history in a game, you give him that opportunity to break that. you give him that opportunity to break that. Like we had said before this show, we discussed it for a moment. We the fans are different from the NFL aficionados. We love to talk about it, but we also like to see records broken. We want to see players that are on fire. We want to see them. We want to see them keep playing, keep them in. I just felt that one particular play, you should have not given. Sean Payton shouldn't have called Taysom Hill's number, but nevertheless, it was an absolute amazing performance. Somebody should have called the fire department because Alvin Kamara was on fire, out of control. He single-handedly carried me to a championship, and I couldn't be more happier.
It was a crazy performance, Marvin. All I gotta say, no, I'm just kidding. All I gotta say is, white man only taking all the black man's credit, man.
Right. I was hoping that Justin or you would say it so I didn't have to.
Yeah, I got you.
If everyone goes back and look at it, you'll see what we're talking about.
$18 million per year as the backup quarterback. Sean Payton's got to justify it. That's how he's going to do it. Turkey vulturing the touchdowns. Just a side note to everybody else. We had a brief conversation about this earlier. And the only thing I like to comment on is, first of all, whoa, Kamara, yo, beast. Second, records. To me, I just think it's absurd, Marvin. And this is kind of the point, is like a lot of professional sports across the board, when you're dominating the teams, they bench the players, they pull them out, and they try to make it a gamesmanship, like mercy rule, as Marvin kind of called it, actually, an off discussion, off the air. But I don't understand that logic. Like, okay, like those 50-point games in the NBA, same thing here. They bench the players early. Why? Screw you. If you can't stop me, let me go for it. Tom Brady got benched. He almost had 400 yards, 4 touchdowns in one half. I wanted to see, I think Marvin said that there's 6 touchdowns for the quarterback as a record in a single game. We don't know the total yards, probably like 600 passing or 580 or something. He could have broke that, and he's 42 years old. I would have loved to see it. Why not? Same thing I mentioned to them. Klay Thompson, 60 points through 3 quarters. Now, obviously, Wilt Chamberlain at 100, but next highest is Kobe, 81. I would have loved to see him go for that Kobe record, but Steve Kerr sat his butt down after 28 minutes of play on 60 points. I really think he could have gotten 85 to 90. Who knows? I don't understand this mercy rule with records. We as fans want to see records broken. We want to see excellence. We want to see when somebody's hot and on fire, you let them go for it. Isn't that the whole point of a record? Why are we in a position nowadays where we're concerned about the morale of the opposing team? Who cares? Are you kidding me? Give me 8 touchdowns, Tom Brady. You know what? Seriously, I don't understand you, Bruce Arians. You've been bitching and complaining all year. Tom Brady sucks. He can't throw the deep ball. Well, he's finally got a game where Detroit ain't playing defense, and then you gonna sit him? You know what I mean? Share the wealth. Let Tom have his moment. Let him be the first 42-year-old to throw 6 touchdowns, 7 touchdowns. The first person in NFL history. Why not? Kamara.
You feel robbed.
But here come Taysom Hill, rumbling, stumbling that half.
Who wants to see that? That's not entertaining.
Justin, mercy rule. What's your take, man? Hopefully we're on the same page.
Yeah, I'm on the same page for most of it. I my knack for opposing. The only opposition I can have this late in the NFL season for putting anybody down with the bench is if I'm looking at one of my guys running up 6 touchdowns this close with the Saints that we've talked about, very potential Super Bowl winners here. That's the only justification. Sit him down for what you can. I don't know. I was trying to find it before you called on me. Would you know when he was sat? Was it real late 4th or?
I don't know the exact time, but it was in the 4th.
I remember it was in the 4th because, as I stated, Minnesota couldn't stop anybody. It was like they were on the goal line, every time.
Our issue is not him getting sat; it's him getting sat at the goal line when he brought them.
And the commentators, Troy Aikman and Chris Collinsworth, brought it up. They were even shocked. They was like, "You'd think that they give Kamara this touchdown? He wants it because Alvin Kamara was on the sidelines like." Let me in, let me in.
They're like, let me in. I'm ready. I want my 7.
Yeah. And here comes Taysom Hill.
Yeah, no, and to that I agree. To the mercy rule, that can go. I don't understand having to sit people so that the other team's morale isn't low. Just get a better game plan next time you play this team.
Stop them.
Or just eat it, take that stuff home with you and take it to practice, fix it, and try to look better next week. I mean, it's football. That's how that breaks down. Like I said, the only opposition I could find would be to sit a player that you know you're going to need in the upcoming playoffs, but with it being that close to the goal line and him already being right there and being so poorly covered, I mean, I could also justify saying, obviously, they're going to try to give him this record right here. Everybody on Alvin Kamara. Easily, then it goes to a tight, it goes somewhere else. Still should have left him on the field instead of give him that opportunity. I agree. He's already down there. It's a little absurd. Could be other things, like you guys said. I don't know.
$50 million reason.
I'm just saying.
Make the money worth it. I agree with that theory.
Richie,
they're basically just feeding him a contract holder.
Richie, I'm just saying it's Louisiana. So, as much as they love him, it's Louisiana. So they love the Taysom Hill.
They do love them Taysom Hill. You right. All right, guys. I'm not going to have a crazy talking point because we've had a great show, but we're having a long show. But there's a couple things I just want some quick takes just to give you guys some information. So first thing I want to say is what I wanted to say about kudos. I talked about kudos for those young players in the NBA. I got to say kudos to the NFL wide receivers. I just want to throw some names out here. We got Diggs, Travis Kelce, who's a tight end, but he's a wide receiver. DeAndre Hopkins, Devontae Adams, Calvin Ridley of Atlanta. Actually doing so well, they might consider trading Julio Jones. He's on the market, guys. I am blasphemy to me, but nonetheless, Calvin Ridley balling out. DK Metcalf, Tyreek Hill, 8 studs, man. And all of them can claim they're the best wide receiver. I mean, come on, they all do different things. Diggs is 120 receptions. First Buffalo Bill to do so. Broke records, already broke his records. Helped Marvin secure his win regardless.
Yes, he did. I cannot forget about Stephon Diggs.
Stephon Diggs. What a baller. 3 touchdowns. 3 touchdowns in his last game. 1,400 yards, 8 touchdowns. Let me just do some quick numbers. Kelce, 14, 16, 11 touchdowns. Travis Kelce is 50 yards away from potentially leading the league in receiving again. Honestly, as we said I want that to happen. I want to see a tight end do it just for the hell of it. DeAndre Hopkins, 1,300 yards, 6 touchdowns, and he is a beast. Devontae Adams, guys, 13 games played, 1,300 yards. So in 2 less games, basically the same yards. He has 17 touchdowns in 13 games, man. The only comparable statistic is Randy Moss in 2007 when he had 23. Who knows what Devontae could have done with 2 more games. Calvin Ridley, 1,309. DK Metcalf, 1,282 and 10. And Tyreek Hill, 1,276 and 15. Travis Kelce, if you weren't on the team, who knows how many? I'm just playing. Both ways for both of those dudes. They got to share the ball. So who knows what would happen? But man, I'm telling you, I haven't seen like this much talent in years. It is crazy. Like, I loved watching Antonio Gates back in the day, and I loved watching guys like that, but I have never seen so many guys who can be like, I'm number one, and I'm like, I don't know who's number one, because they all just bring different things to the table, and it is awesome to see. So kudos to these wide receivers, man. I love it. I love it. Side notes, I got to talk about two random facts. One, the Cincinnati Bengals, boys, they are playing Baltimore. I'm a Bengals fan, but this is not why I'm bringing it up. Baltimore, Godspeed, my friends. They need a win to get into the wild card, but let me explain something to you, boys. I have a statistic for you. When the Bengals have a losing record, they have won 17 out of the last 18 games of the season, and they've won 12 in a row. So Baltimore, good luck, man. I'm not saying you can't do it, but you have a 1 in 18 chance of winning this game according to history. So I don't know if Baltimore's getting in, guys. Not that doesn't not look good based on that, and based on the fact what the Bengals just came back from Houston, etc. They're a terrible team, but man, that's a weird statistic. I'm not saying it's a great one. That's a bizarre one, but nonetheless, it's typical of the Bengals. You lose, have a losing season, and win the last one just to give the fans hope. Why not, right? And then the last thing I gotta say about football is, oh my God, I am excited. They sit in Ben Roethlisberger. And guess who gets to see Myles Garrett again? My favorite buddy. Man, I hope.
Round two, baby.
This time, if he says something to him, he don't use the helmet. He just picks him up and just pile drives him head first, man. I can't wait to see Mason Rudolph have to square up against that center and look Myles Garrett in the eye. After, again, who knows what happened? Allegedly, Myles Garrett says he called him the N-word. And Mason Rudolph is claiming, of course I didn't say that. I'm not stupid. All I can say, man, if I'm Mason Rudolph, I'm looking at Mike Tomlin like, dude, what are you doing? What did Mason Rudolph do to piss Mike Tomlin off them? That's all I got to know, man. Because I am shocked. I understand from the strategic point, genuinely, you need to sit Ben. He's old. He hasn't been performing too great. He needs the rest. He does. I get it, obviously. But it's just kind of funny to me. Like, woo. If I'm Mason Rudolph, I'm sweating a little. Like, if I'm Myles Garrett, it doesn't matter. I'm man of the year, apparently, according to the NFL. So I'm sitting high and pretty. I've had a great season. I'm looking fresh. If I'm Mason Rudolph, I'm kind of sweating, guys. So, I mean, with that, though, that's our NFL. I just wanted to mention something to you guys. Really interesting statistic. We already talked about it, but I got to tell our fans. LeBron James, the king. 1,000 straight NBA games of 10 points or more consecutive.
My God.
So, 2 points. Michael Jordan was 867 or 66, the former king. LeBron passed him on March 30th, 2018. Now, just so you guys know, the last time LeBron James did not score at least 10 points in a game, January 5th, 2017. I was in college. Y'all was still in.
2007, right?
2007. I didn't even say 7. 2000. It's been 13 years since this man, almost 14 years, since this man has not scored 10 points. What is
We were babies. We were babies.
Yeah.
We were babies. Marvin, what were you doing in 2007?
I was on the golf team in high school. So he's been putting up stellar numbers since then. You know, I mean, probably playing with him in NBA Live. You know, PS2. You know, and putting up video game numbers with him, but never, did it cross my mind that he would put up this crazy stat line for this long and this consistent. I mean, and for him to do this at age 36, Richie, is truly an amazing thing to watch. Like we had said before the show, Michael Jordan at this point was already burnt out. He already was pretty much done. Like he had retired the first time, came back and was burnt out again.
After 3 years.
After 3 years. So we're privileged to get to see this level of greatness for this long.
Yes, I love that, Marv. I agree with you. You know, I don't want to talk about GOATs. That's a whole nother topic, but let's appreciate this man's greatness and his consistent greatness. He
King
is
James.
a marvel. King James. Justin, what were you doing in 2007?
2007, I don't even think I can talk about it on the air. No, I'm just kidding. I was in high school. I was performing professional choir in high school. I was learning theater and crafting acting and being a high schooler. I mean,
yeah, it's crazy.
It was crazy.
I was at the University of Cincinnati doing engineering, working for Procter & Gamble, and getting as drunk as I could get, to be honest. That's I wasn't playing live, though, Marvin. I was playing NBA 2K. That's what I was playing. I was playing, what was it, 2K7, whatever it was. I think it was 2K7 back then, because that was before it hit the double digits. I think it was NBA 2K7. But,
I crossed over, but I remember playing with LeBron on the old live before they become because they stopped buying that game. People stopped buying it. After that live, I was like, I'm done.
Yeah, that was that. Yeah. Like I was playing with Braun and Zildrunas Ilgaskis. That's what I was doing.
Yeah.
That was crazy, dude. What a, my goodness. I wish I could do anything that great for that long, that consistently. Let's be honest, man. That is crazy. 14 years.
14 years.
14.
Man, well, thank you guys. We will have Tony, Ray, and Sahi back with us in the new year. Happy New Year from all of us here at The Wire and H2G. We will see you on our new time slots, which will be Wednesday at 8. And that's the next time you'll see us, next Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Thank you guys so much. Like I said, Happy New Year. And this has been The Wire Season 1. Yeah. Man, that's like he's at least the most consistent player of all time. At least the most consistent.